fail to realize you aspire to do things too.
Mm-hmm.
So going to Colorado, I think that's a great idea.
Let's get the cat out of the bag, man. Let's go ahead and talk about that. You're right on all accounts. I appreciate you. Never once did I say they're going to put a tombstone with my name on it at Jackson State. So I wasn't going to die here. Y'all know that. Everything I said I would do, I did. Everything I said I wanted to happen, I tried my darnest to make it happen. We've exceeded, I think, expectations in some realm. But when I don't fit into someone else's plan and purpose, now there's ridicule. But you forgot about my plan and God's purpose. That's where the dysfunction comes. I reached a point where I said to myself, we're going to go out there and recruit another great class. And we were, and TC will. And we're going to win again. So at what point do we keep dominating that you don't get mad at us for dominating? Because it's a level of dominance where you start to turn. And I felt that. We start to get tension from our own people because you're dominant. And you start saying, well, that's prime. He can recruit that. We ain't got that. We don't have this. We heard that last night. You're 4 and 5 stars. Yeah, because we recruit those and they sign. But it comes a time that that's not what it's all about for me. I'm a winner. I've always won. I'm going to win. Y'all know that if you've done your homework. But it's bigger than that. It's about increasing enrollment. It's about the safety of students. It's about going to the next level, not just in football. I would love to go to another conference. Is the rest of the school ready? Is the baseball team ready? Is the basketball teams ready? Or just the football team? See, you make it just about football, and it's not just about football to me. It's about our trainers and kids that the fire alarms may go off and not being turned off at 3:15 in the morning. It's about people that may not have the proper safety on a campus that they should. I'm not just talking about Jackson State. I'm talking about everywhere. So the things that I want to accomplish, I can't do it by just being the darn football coach and winning games. I can't do it. And I reached a point where I had a real conversation with the Lord. Now, it's funny how you believe the Lord when he said to come here, but you don't believe me when I tell you the Lord may tell me to do otherwise. It's like my God is talking to you about me. I don't think he works like that. But it's so much more that I can't do because that's not my occupation. I'm a football coach and a darn good one. And name one thing in football that we haven't accomplished that I said we would. But it's bigger than that. And until we address these underlying issues that nobody wants to talk about, ain't nothing gonna change. Football, yes. But what else is gonna change? And I'm a change agent. That's what it's all about to me. Because I'm not just attached to the football players, the equipment persons, the trainers, the academic persons, everybody on campus. When we leave, you're going to find out what all we did. Because they don't really talk about the positivity until we go. You'll find out what all we did for Jackson State. And all we wanted to do for Jackson State. I just pray to God that in
Welcome to another episode of the Jay Lex Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Lex. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment on the content. I appreciate you supporting the brand. You know what I'm trying to do with this. I'm at about 27 subs right now. I like to get to 100, then 500, then 1,000, 2,000. You know how this goes. So I really and truly appreciate you helping me to build this brand out. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I appreciate you. I hope you had a great weekend, a good weekend of football and family. I know the holiday season's here, so get your shopping in. Once again, I'm going to have to delve into this Dion situation. He's still being called names, even though I believe he made the right decision. So I'm going to play a couple clips So we're going to try to get through this. Hopefully this is the last time that we talk about this and get onto other subjects, but it has to be talked about. I'm going to play a couple different clips, and then I'm going to play Umar first. I have two clips. I'm going to play Umar Johnson, who's on the Breakfast Club, I believe at the end of last week. I can't remember what day it was, but I'm going to play the clip with him and Charlemagne arguing, and then I'm going to come and make a comment. Then I'm going to play a second clip of Dion and kind of go that way. So give me 1 second.
The U.S. Supreme Court right now is reviewing whether or not racially conscious admissions in higher education are unconstitutional. And guess who is bringing the suit? Asians. But guess who's funding the suit? White people with connections to the 6 conservative justices on the United States Supreme Court bench. So, what they're saying is Asians are discriminated against on the basis of the personality aspect of the admissions process at Harvard and the University of North Carolina, among other universities, by subjecting Asians to that personality assessment, which includes personality, background, social economic status, culture, this, that, who you are, what you want to be. Asians are being penalized for their high test scores and grades. So what the Asians want and what the white folks who are funding the Asians want is they want the Supreme Court to say you cannot include race at all as a factor in higher education admissions. If they throw that out, if they say Harvard cannot use the personality assessment portion of the admissions process, the percentage of Asians that get accepted into PWIs goes up by 20%, and the percentage of black students will plummet by at least 50%. You know what that means? You are watching the gentrification of black children off of the PWI campus. How is this relevant to Deion Sanders? The reason I'm so personally disappointed in Deion is I thought he was there for a movement, not for money. Meaning, Deion Sanders, the coach of Jackson State, I foresaw a situation where Deion would hire other coaches, other retired black NFL greats to coach other HBCUs. In doing so, you attract our top tier high school athletes to come to HBCU.
Maybe.
Stay with me.
Eddie George is at Tennessee State.
Stay with me. Football and back. You know, like I know, if you got top tier NFL greats coaching HBCUs, the athletes are coming just like they was coming for Deion. He showed you, Charlemagne.
That's Deion, though.
He showed
Dr.
you.
Umar.
And his other one's just
Deion,
as
one
great.
of the most famous people ever.
And his other one's just as great. So listen.
Eddie George at Tennessee State.
That's one person. We're talking about a system, not an individual. So Deion and these other coaches bring all these athletes from high school to play football, basketball, so forth. The revenue of the HBCU goes up, Envy. As a result of the revenue going up, Charlemagne, the schools got more money. They don't have to subject themselves to closure. They don't have to subject themselves to being dependent on white money. You got HBCUs at risk of being closed. I read something that said almost a half of them. A half may not survive the decade. So this was bigger than football. This was about the survival of the HBCU.
It's bigger than Deion,
especially,
though, Dr. Umar.
No,
Yes,
no,
it is. I think
no. Stop trying
you're blaming an individual.
Stop trying to give celebrities a pass, Charlemagne.
No, you're blaming an individual
I'm not
instead of
blaming
talking about
him.
the issue.
I'm blaming black men for not being men.
But you know what?
I'm blaming us for not being men. That was an unmanly move.
Can you admit one thing?
Deion could have went down in history, brother.
Are HBCUs chronically underfunded?
Of course.
Were they chronically underfunded before Deion?
Yes.
Yes.
Will they be chronically underfunded after Deion?
Yes.
Absolutely.
What are those reasons that they're chronically underfunded?
We don't get
Because
back.
we as black men have not come together to create the funding source to make sure they survive. I don't want to hear about the government. We have too many wealthy blacks. Y'all interview them every day.
I'm with you. So you got low alumni donors,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Low endowments.
Correct.
That's a us problem.
He part of us. Why you keep exhibiting celebrities?
But he's one
They're
person.
not better than us.
He's one person.
Okay, but the point is that one man could have been a catalyst for a movement that would have revolutionized the survival of HBCUs.
But why does the movement stop just because he left? HBCUs gonna still be here.
You're missing the point.
No,
The
HBCUs gonna still
abolition
be
wasn't
here.
just about Frederick Douglass. But if Frederick Douglass would have pulled out, it would have hurt it. The Underground Railroad wasn't just about Harriet, but if she would have pulled out, it would have failed.
So what was the
civil
HBCU
rights movement
movement
wasn't
before
just about
Deion?
King.
Before Deion 3 years ago, what was
They
the
were
HBCU
struggling, and he could have helped save it. And for him to pull out of Jackson State the way that he did it before making sure the HBCU system survived, to me was selfish. He chose money over the movement, Charlemagne, and celebrities do it all the time, and y'all want to give him a pass. Nobody get no pass. I don't
very
care
unfair
who
to say.
Deion Sanders is. He had a chance to help, and he hurt, and y'all want to condone that because you black celebrities are not committed to the best interests of black
Well,
people.
let me ask you a question.
Hope you enjoyed that shouting match. I did not know about the whole thing on campus. I'm far removed from. I never went to go to an Ivy League school anyway. I'm far removed from the Supreme Court thing with the Asians. I don't know anything about that. I want to get to his point though. And while I don't agree with a lot of what he has to say, I agree with a few things. This isn't one of them though. Deion Sanders' job is not to save the HBCU system. It's not. I'm going to play a clip for you in a moment, and it's going to illustrate for you as to why that man left. It is not his job to save the HBCU system. It existed long before him. It'll exist after him. And like I said before, I'm going to play that clip in a moment. There is a level of institutional corruption that exists within the HBCU. I never went to one. I know people who have gone to them. I have heard about these same struggles dating back 20 years. It was not Deion Sanders' job to save the HBCU system. His job was to coach football. His job was not to be the savior of Jackson, Mississippi, one of the poorest cities in the United States of America. His job was to coach football and put the best product out there. I saw Jason Whitlock talk about this. We are constantly in certain parts of the black community are constantly looking for a savior. They're constantly looking for the Justice League or the Avengers or some other form of superhero to come in and save them. It is not the responsibility of Deion Sanders to go and save historically black colleges and universities. It's not. There's a point in there where he says that half of them might be closed. You want to know why they're going to close? Because they misappropriate the funds that come in. I'm not saying that student admission or I should say enrollment is down. I'm not saying that's not the case. What are you doing with the funds that come in? Not just at Jackson State or any other historically black college, or for that matter, or not just Jackson State, but all of these HBCUs. A lot of them seem to be underfunded. You get mad because there's low endowment. A lot of people don't want to put the money back in because they know nothing's going to happen. You know how many people would avoid paying taxes if they knew they could? Why? Because everybody knows that eventually that money is going to be squandered. How many times? I mean, look at the United States in general. Most countries, for that matter, are in massive amounts of debt, and it doesn't make any sense. So now I'm going to play the clip of Deion that I have here. I'm going to play it for you, and then we're going to talk about it, all right?
And because obviously Jackson State is, as far as collaboration, how important, because obviously Jackson State is getting all the attention right now.
And we get all the attention because we're winning.
No, I'm not. I'm saying you should get all the attention.
Right.
But I'm just saying, how important is it to collaborate with other teams in the SWAC, other HBCUs to kind of...
You mean the coaches?
Yeah, share information, share resources.
All the time.
Okay.
I've got several of the coaches on the Zoom call and say, let's talk about our biggest nemesis or detractors or cancers. And we just talked about it. And ironically, everybody's dealing with the same foolishness, but people just don't talk about it. But this is the problem. I could say stuff. Coach George could say stuff. Coach Hugh Jackson could say stuff. You know, you got NFL type guys, But some guys that don't have that, can't elaborate and talk about the dysfunction that they're dealing with because they're subject to be fired. And when we do it, you may not like it, but I'm not lying. So if I'm saying How we gonna be on TV? You don't even sell out a darn home game. So who gonna go want to film an empty stadium? They may not like it, but I ain't lying. How can we have 60,000 people in a darn stadium? You talking about we sold out, and I checked the receipts, and we done sold 28,000 tickets. Now, y'all better find out who's stealing, because that affects my pocket. You may not like it, but I ain't lying. So it's a lot of stuff like that, and it's more that goes on that we got to address. And I just have the audacity to address it, because it's for the kids.
And there it is right there. What did he talk about? Who are our nemesis? Who are our cancers that we have to deal with? All right, I'm obviously paraphrasing. He has to deal with that on a daily basis. He talked about the 60,000 people, even though they said they sold 28,000 tickets. One of the stipulations, I believe, in his contract was when the tickets, when they sold 30,000 tickets, he got a percentage. That was one of the ways that he could offset giving half of his salary to make sure that his coaching staff got paid. You got to think about these things. So we're 2,000 tickets short, even though there's 60,000 people in the stadium. That's a problem, ladies and gentlemen. That is not a Dion problem. That is an internal and probably overall HBCU. And there's other coaches. I think the other two he mentioned were Hugh Jackson, who used to coach the Cleveland Browns, and then Eddie George, who used to be the running back for the, I believe they started in Houston, but now the Tennessee Titans. So those guys can talk about it, but a lot of other guys can't because they're subject to be fired. And it won't get as much play in the media. See, those are the things that you have to worry about. Those are the things that you have to worry about. This is why, and not just HBCUs, just be clear. There's other colleges. I told you that my wife's college had to shut down because of mismanagement of funds. Now, they didn't have a football program, but they were still mismanaged and gotten like $50 million worth of debt. That's where the problem lies. That's why they're so mad at him. That's why they don't want him coaching his last game there. Why? Because he shouted them out. Why did places like Howard, now I don't know what it's like now, back in the day, have so many issues? It can't just be a low endowment. Even when that money was coming in, what happens? It's all mismanaged. I told you 10 years ago, there's a report out there. I forget which website it is, so I could give them credit, where they had like $37 million, and over the span of 4 years, we're down to 4. And then at a point, they were in the negative. How do so many of these schools fall into the negative? The same thing that Deion Sanders was talking about as it pertained to the ticket sales. Somebody's taking those monies. Somebody's taking those monies and pocketing it themselves. That's what you need to address. And yet, a lot of those same people who are running those universities don't lose their jobs, and they give themselves pay raises. We've seen it on the big government level. Every year they get a pay raise. Every year they get something else for themselves. And crumbs for everybody else. That's what the problem is with the HBCU. So Dr. Umar Johnson can give Deion Sanders 100,000 lashes if he wants to. He can go straight, Singapore. There was the guy who he can go give him canes all day. But until you fix the foundation, in this case, the administration of these colleges and universities, nothing's going to change, and you're going to have millions of dollars going in. There's going to be a few people eating nice, eating porterhouse steaks, and everybody else is going to be eating honey buns. That's where the problem lies. For those of you who are teachers, in particular, I have a couple friends who are public school teachers. They tell me of the nonsense that they have to deal with every day. It's not teaching. Some of the kids are difficult, yes, but for the most part, they love the kids. They want to make sure that they help those kids. It's having to deal with the administration. And if your administration is if your administration is corrupt, as most are, if your administration is corrupt and that foundation is not solid, then you're always going to run into issues. How is it that New York City, as an example, we'll go away from HBCUs for a moment. How is that New York City, with all the money that was coming in before the lockdowns, could have such a shitty school system? How? You're not devoid of money. People who live in New York City pay 4% of their income to you. There's 8 million people in Long Island, or Manhattan alone. We're not even talking about the other boroughs. It's a lot of money that has gone to waste over decades. Now, if we come back to HBCUs, yes, probably attendance is down. But you still have to make it work. So when you have the Dr. Pastor, Kevin Cosby's of the world sitting there saying he hopes that Deion fails, it's because he knows that Deion Sanders was out there putting a lot of these colleges on Front Street. And putting more specifically, their administrations on Front Street. There's a lot of BS that goes on that never gets talked about. And for some reason, when it comes to black people, certain black people, you're not allowed to criticize them or you're against the movement. I think most black people want to see HBCU survive. But it was not Deion Sanders' job to save a blatantly corrupt system. Do we ask that of Nick Saban in Alabama? I assume that they have issues there. Do we ask that of Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, knowing Flint still has dirty water? That's not their job. Do we ask that of Lincoln Riley at USC? I don't remember who the coach is at UCLA. Do we ask that of these coaches? Even though California has a rampant, most major cities, but California has a rampant crime, we don't ask them to go and fix the communities. Their job is to coach football and to bring monies in and to put asses in the seats. To put that kind of additional pressure and responsibility upon the shoulders of Deion Sanders, who's not from Jackson, Mississippi, who took the job, who was sitting there bathing in a hotel pool because the regular water in the town wasn't clean, is unfair and irresponsible. It is not his job to fix what has been broken. You have to go to administrations for that. Deion Sanders is one man. Even if they could build a program out where they could compete with the Alabamas and the Michigans and the Floridas and the Florida States, doesn't change the fact that those kids still have to go back to those shitty dorms, to that shitty water. And thankfully, Deion was starting to call people out on it. But where's the heat for the mayor? Where's the heat for the governor? Where's the heat for the local administration that has let things get this bad? And then you have the audacity, the nerve to get mad at him for going to take $6 million elsewhere? That man should have a statue enshrined and put in the front of the campus for the BS that he had to deal with for 3 years. Where's the heat for the administration? You're not going to fix. You're not going to put You're not going to put all this nice stuff in a house, as an example, when the foundation, the cement, is cracking and the house is falling in. You're not going to make it look modern. You're going to fix the foundation. Do I believe Deion Sanders would have been at Jackson State for 25 years? No. I think he would have been there probably closer to 10 and built it out more. I mean, he did a hell of a job in 3 years. I think he could have been there for 7 to 10 years. But once again, you have to deal with BS administrations, BS politicians who don't want to do anything, and then the very second that you decide to go in a different direction, let's blame Deion Sanders. No, 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 no. Start getting people who are in those administrations who are sitting there eating lovely fired. whomever the dean is, whomever the chancellor, whatever term you use for it, they're not doing their jobs correctly. They're not budgeting correctly. They're probably giving that money away. I mean, go into the comment section, some of the comment sections. People who went to school there might have had fun, but they'll tell you they went through hell living in those dorms. Until you fix the foundation, until you weed out as much corruption as you can, and I know it exists everywhere, until you get rid of that, Jesus of Nazareth couldn't come and save the HBCU situation. It is not Dion's job to fix what administrators what should have already been doing. And for some of you out here who are still calling him names, shame on you as well. It's not Dion's job to take on the responsibility of a bunch of corrupt bureaucrats and administration who won't do their jobs. You won't hold their feet to the fire, but you'll hold a coach's feet to the fire. It's ridiculous. This is why you guys are always behind the 8 ball. Speaking of HBCUs, we have another story out of this Texas Southern University. I don't know exactly where it's located in the state of Texas, but nevertheless, a police chief is suing the university for wrongful termination or attempting to terminate her under false pretenses. I'm going to play the clip, and then we're going to come back and continue to talk about the foolishness that's going on.
Chief is speaking only to Fox 26 after suing the university, claiming retaliation. Now, she tells us the university is trying to let her go, all because she spoke up.
But I'm not one to allow you to just make up things about me, especially my name. And when that happened, I just couldn't allow it to happen.
Texas Southern University Police Chief Mary Young says she's suing the university so the truth can come out. She claims her job is in jeopardy because she told her officers to stop acting as personal assistants for TSU President Dr. Lacia Crumpton Young.
They're not there to be an errand person. They're not there to take her to the beauty shop. They're not there to take her to the grocery store. They're not there to do any of those things.
Is that what was happening?
Those things were occurring. There was even a complaint that was called to me about one of my officers holding up the president's ball dress and carrying her purse. And her husband is standing next there. It just looks very disrespectful. So I kind of brought that to their attention, like, we cannot do that.
Shortly after admonishing officers, Chief Young says an anonymous fraud complaint was filed against her, alleging she'd approved overtime pay for officers for hours they never worked.
I don't commit crimes.
So you think this is all retaliation?
Oh, I know it's retaliation. I know it's retaliation, Jonathan, and I'll be able to prove that.
The police chief says several weeks ago she was informed by TSU's president the Board of Regents planned to let her go based on the complaint and an audit. Young's attorney Ben Hall says the university broke the law.
She is a police officer of over 2 decades. TSU knows that, but chose not to comply with the statute. The statute says she must be provided with a complaint. It must be signed. She must have a reasonable opportunity to respond. None of that was done.
But a statement from TSU reads in part, a signed complaint was provided to Mary Young on August 25th of this year, and goes on to say the university will continue to handle this personnel matter and allegations of fraud within the appropriate private and legal forums and out of the media. Thursday, a judge granted a temporary restraining order preventing TSU from taking any action against the police chief until both sides can present their case.
The temporary restraining order was needed because I got tired of coming to work every day, and my staff is wondering, like, Chief, you hear the rumor? You hear the rumor? What rumor? It was always a rumor. Oh, they're saying this is your last day.
Now, the attorney, Ben Hall, for the chief, the police chief, says that he has proof that he will present in court if he needs to that there was no fraud involving overtime pay. Also, I'll put TSU's full statement up on our website, fox26houston.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, I talked about this with the whole Dion thing ad nauseum. When are you as a community, whether you attended a HBCU or not, when are you as a community going to stand up against this foolishness? When are you going to stand up and start holding these individuals? I don't care if they have 27,000 doctorate degrees. I don't care about their title. I don't care about their status. I don't care where they live. I don't care how much jewelry they have. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. When do you as a community start holding these people accountable? When do you as a community start holding these people's feet to the goddamn fire? Am I saying it's not happening at other places? Of course not. It probably happens at 99% of places. But you should not, this should not be happening. I don't know what's true and what isn't in this case. I just found it interesting. Once again, corruption. When do you as a community step up and start telling these people you either do your job correctly or you're out of here? When does it start? Instead of every single time having to hear another story about some foolishness going on. We're just going to continue to let these people get away with what they're getting away with. We're not going to hold their feet to the proverbial fire. We're not going to be able to hold these people accountable. I've talked about accountability on the show multiple times. When are those people going to be held accountable? When do we have accountability in these things? Instead of constantly hearing, oh, we've got to support black, oh, we've got to do this, oh, we've got to do that. No, we don't. When do the standards change? For a police chief of 20 years to be going through something like this, or the police chief of that particular university, who is a 20-year vet, who to my knowledge has no complaints, and now all of a sudden is potentially going to lose her job. Like I said before, I don't know the entire case. It's not for me to know. I do know we've heard this before. Some type of misappropriation or some type of corruption. Going back to Dion for a moment, he lost his bowl game over the weekend, a Celebration Bowl. I see people on social media celebrating that they're happy that he lost. But you're not sitting there asking why it is that he left. It's in high definition. It's 1080p. You can't miss it. And you continuously and repeatedly play stupid because it's exactly what it is. Some of you are going to say, well, don't challenge my intelligence. I'm here to challenge your intelligence. I'm here to tell you, you continue to play blind, to play dumb. Like you don't see what's right in front of you. It's like when you're trying to tell somebody that they're being cheated on by their significant other, and you present evidence, unedited, raw, and then y'all turn around, and then those people who are presented that say something like, well, you just wish you were with me, or I don't see what you're talking about, and they play dumb, even though it's right in their face. These are the conversations that need to be had. These are the conversations that need to be had within the black community. I know some of y'all are going to say, well, you're not really in the black community because you're mad. You can say whatever it is you want to, whatever helps you sleep better at night. But I'll be right today, I'll be right tomorrow, I'll be right 10 years, 15, 20 years from now. Because you know what's going on. And these are just two stories. The second one we don't even know about nationally. Dion just happens to be famous, so that one caught a lot of traction. I don't want to hear from the Umar Johnsons of the world and others who are sitting there mad at Deion Sanders for making the decision that he made. When a story like this comes out and their mum fix your own house. Weed out, you're not going to weed out everybody, but weed out the people that you can who are holding you back. or you will continuously and repeatedly have these same goddamn issues. The HBCU is on the brink of bankruptcy in some cases. And it's not because of the cracker devil white man. And it's not because that attendance is down. It is because it is rotten to the core. I have said this before. You do not fix, you don't, as an example, take care of, if you're talking about somebody's body, where do you start? You start with the foundation. You start with the internal. You can wear all the jewelry and all the nice things in the world. If your insides are rotting, it doesn't matter. All those trinkets are not going to help you when you're having a heart attack. You start internally. You start with your foundation. You start with fundamentals, and then you build. As I've said before, if the foundation of a house isn't solid, you don't go and put solar panels on the goddamn house. It doesn't matter. It does nothing for the base. It does nothing for the foundation. You can put on all the jewelry in the world. You can put on all the makeup. You can get a haircut every week. If you are not taking care of yourself, if you are not handling business, if you're not doing it in a fundamental and ethical way, it will fall apart quickly. Why aren't these people being put in front of the courts? Why aren't former alumni, never mind endowments, because those endowments go to shit anyway, why aren't former alumni calling for people's heads? You start there. I don't know how many times we're going to have this conversation. I really don't like it because I want to talk about other things. But every single time you show your asses and wonder why it is that you're not taken seriously. It's pathetic. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Jay Lex Podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment on the content. You know where to find it. Take care.
Police chief is speaking only to Fox 26 after suing the university, claiming retaliation. Now, she tells us the university is trying to let her go, all because she spoke up.
But I'm not one to allow you to just make up things about me, especially my name. And when that happened, I just couldn't allow it to happen.
Texas Southern University Police Chief Mary Young says she's suing the university so the truth can come out. She claims her job is in jeopardy because she told her officers to stop acting as personal assistants for TSU President Dr. Lacia Crumpton Young.
They're not there to be an errand person. They're not there to take her to the beauty shop. They're not there to take her to the grocery store. They're not there to do any of those things.
Is that what was happening?
Those things were occurring. There was even a complaint that was called to me about one of my officers holding up the president's ball dress and carrying her purse. And her husband is standing next there. It just looked very disrespectful. So I kind of brought that to their attention, like, we cannot do that.
Shortly after admonishing officers, Chief Young says an anonymous fraud complaint was filed against her, alleging she'd approved overtime pay for officers for hours they never worked.
I don't commit crimes.
So you think this is all retaliation?
Oh, I know it's retaliation. I know it's retaliation, Jonathan, and I'll be able to prove that.
The police chief says several weeks ago she was informed by TSU's president the Board of Regents planned to let her go based on the complaint and an audit. Young's attorney Ben Hall says the university broke the law.
She is a police officer of over 2 decades. TSU knows that, but chose not to comply with the statute. The statute says she must be provided with a complaint. It must be signed. She must have a reasonable opportunity to respond. None of that was done.
But a statement from TSU reads in part, a signed complaint was provided to Mary Young on August 25th of this year, and goes on to say the university will continue to handle this personnel matter and allegations of fraud within the appropriate private and legal forums and out of the media. Florida. Thursday, a judge granted a temporary restraining order preventing TSU from taking any action against the police chief until both sides can present their case.
The temporary restraining order was needed because I got tired of coming to work every day, and my staff is wondering, like, Chief, you hear the rumor? You hear the rumor? What rumor? It was always a rumor. Oh, they're saying this is your last